Well, welcome everyone to the fourth division of the PNR NMRA's second Saturday layout tour for April. And today we have Mike Stepner, our 4D superintendent. And Mike is a true multi-scaler, having started in HO and then transitioned to N, then to O, then to O and 30, and now back to HO. So he grew up in Southern California watching trains, so no wonder the hobby stuck with him. Anyway, Mike is also highly active in giving back to the hobby via various clubs and museums. So please welcome Mike Stepner.
Okay, well, I've model railroaded since I was like 5, 6, or 7. Typical train sets on the floor or on a table. I didn't actually build my first railroad until I was like 12. That was in N scale. When I was 16 years old, my neighbor Jim Best, he was an S scaler in his house, but he also belonged to the Los Angeles Live Steamers. So of course I hung out with him a lot. He had the machine shop and everything, and I was talking to him about it, and he says, "What do you like?" I said, "I like hoppers," and he gave me this book when I was 16 years old, and I fell in love with the Magma, Arizona, and I've been in love with it ever since. I haven't always modeled it, uh, but every railroad I've ever built had some semblance of it. I named something out of there or a little something from it, so it's always been a part of my railroads. But I've only built a couple that were dedicated to it, and this is my favorite one, and it's actually I'm pretty happy with it. There's the Magma number 10 in Chandler, Arizona, the number 6 in Scottsdale at the McCormick Railroad Park. Uh, there's two other steamers that they're around. I don't know where. I've never seen them. But yeah, I love the railroad. I've only been to Superior once in my life, though. Uh, so you can go on to the next one. This is the reason uh, for the railroad and what it does and how I run it. I changed it, of course. It's not exactly prototype. I changed the name. I changed the way I do things, but I tried to capture the flavor of Superior. The track plan is pretty accurate, not exact. I interchange with the Copper Basin and the Southern Pacific. Um, Hauling copper and perlite are the two main commodities, just like the real railroad. Uh, but I like other things like most of us do, so I have a little DRGW Monarch branch connection and for limestone, which limestone's used in the processing of smelting as a flux. So that was a good excuse for that. So I get some Rio Grande on my railroad and, various things like that. I do run tourist train just because, well, I like trains and I buy a lot of trains and most of us do, and we all have stuff that we don't necessarily dedicate to. So I had a I have a little museum on my railroad and a tourist train operation. So uh we'll get to that when I get to a picture. Go ahead and go. I think is that enough for that? Uh One thing on the era that I actually modeled like 1988 to 1995. That way I can include Rio Grande and does not include UP as ownership. Uh, so this is the track plan. It's pretty close. I mean, I hand drew it, not to scale, but I covered it. The railroad all starts at the yard. It starts and ends at the yard, not that yard over here in Superior in the main layout room. Come over, right there. That's the yard. Uh, it's a one-track yard with for a freight train for the cars, and then two tracks for engine house, and then there's a rip track. And this track right here in the upper corner below the mine, that's actually a waste rock track. It gets loaded from the mine above, kind of convenient to do that. So everything starts here. It either goes north to the mine or the team track or south to the industries and the interchange. Uh, I got a scale track. I actually have an operator. It doesn't weigh the car. It's simulated operation, but you actually throw the points and the trains go onto the scale track. And then Chuck Lee of the Colorado Front Range Railroad, he built a simulation weighing device for me. So we're still fine tuning it, but so we actually have to weigh cars. Uh, so you kind of see the mine and the team track. So we'll just go south. The railroad's a north-south operation. So there we got the two perlite mills, uh, Harbor Silflow and Harbor Light. Those are their actual names. So I named them similar. The track configuration, as I said, the only thing I'm really missing is the Y. I don't have the Ys at both ends of the railroad because I just didn't have room. Uh, Went a little too far. We do have the standard oil spur, and it is on a switchback similar to the prototype. Uh, it's actually on the switchback on the tail of the Y, but like I said, I didn't have room for it. So, but I do have a standard oil siding. Uh, we go to the gravel pit. The gravel pit's actually two tracks, but again, for space constriction, I did one track. Uh, so we ship rock, ballast, riprap, whatever. Uh, and then we got the smelter. Now, this is where I kind of really went away from the prototype. The smelter and the yard are actually together. But for operation and running and play value, I decided to break them up. So there's the smelter. So the train runs from the mine to the smelter. Obviously, you're going to have cars being picked up and dropped off for inbound, outbound, outside of the ore. The outside loop track with the tunnel and the trestle, that's actually the ore dumper. So the train will go from the mine, and it's a partial push-pull operation. Has to weigh everything, and then it'll run over here, have to run around and shove the cars in to the ore dumper. And that's basically its sole job is mine to ore dumper to mine. That's it. And then, of course, the smelter, you got inbound the limestone for use as a flux. Scrap copper will come in on gondolas or boxcars or however it gets shipped in. Uh, hydrochloric acid is a byproduct of the smelting process. It's also used in the mining and in the smelting process. So we ship acid, ship finished product, of course, and then slag. Slag's the byproduct. Now, as far as I know, all mining operations or smelter operations, it doesn't matter the metal, the slag trains are usually their own railroad. But I didn't have room for that, so mine shares the railroad. So that's one operation, and it gets in the way. It's kind of fun. When the slag train is loaded, it has priority. So it can really booger up the works. So the slag train will have to run over to the slag dump, which goes past the yard, and you'll see the slag dump right here on the end of the peninsula. I got a little 45 ton or 70-ton locomotive that handles 2 or 3 slag cars at a time. And that's basically its sole job. And then, so a train will actually go out, pick up cars, set out cars, weigh the cars, make them for the outbound, and then go to the interchange. Interchange comes back with the train and puts it into that one single track in the yard. So when you continue on past the smelter, you go into the interchanges. The railroad, as I said earlier, I believe, interchanges with the Copper Basin, which is track 3 and 3, where the pointer is. Track 1 is actually departure to Harvey Gulch when the train is made up over at the SP interchange. Coming from Superior, it goes into track 5 at the SP interchange, and then the other 4 tracks are basically just used as a classification track to make up the next train. All these extra tracks I have, and I don't have them installed yet. And I've changed over here because this was a moving transverse table. Now it's a fixed transverse table. So one of these tracks now has a turnout and is connected, and I pinned the transverse table because it became a classification yard. And it was inconvenient to be constantly sliding it in and out. So it's all pinned and connected by turnouts now. And then that's where I park the locomotives that handle the classification. Go left. That's the tail track for the Magma main line. That's the tail track. That's the Magma main line. The runaround track. The middle track is the SP main line. And if you go all the way back up to the top, where the depot, that would be the depot. That's where the tourist trains stored and rail cars, freight cars. I got an Amtrak Superliner in there. It's all for people can go check out, and it's basically an operating museum. I'll even occasionally throw in go get a car from the museum to bring it into the riprap track for restoration, things like that. Just, it's model trains. Have fun with it, right? So occasionally you might see a Amtrak Superliner come through the Superior. A lot of this will be explained throughout my slides too, so I don't think we need to spend too much time here. This is basically how a copper mine and smelter works. It's out of the Kennecott copper mine in Nevada, the Ruth mine in Ely, Nevada. It's quite an operation. These will be someday printed nicely and laminated. These are all handwritten right now, but basically these are how my railroads run. These are the instructions, what tracks hold how many cars. I got dedicated trains like the slag train, the tourist train, and my waste rock trains. There's really no shipping. I mean, you have to weigh, like the waste rock trains need to be weighed. You're not classifying, you're not doing anything. You're picking them up, you're heading out, you picking up the empties, dropping off the loads, and coming back. So instead of having car cards, I just have instruction sheets on how to do it. Slag train, same thing. Everything else is pretty much done by anywhere from a 2-cycle to a 4-cycle weight car. Most of it is 2-cycle. I do have a couple 3-cycle and a couple 4-cycles just to change things up a little bit, but that's how I run it. And so far, it seems to work pretty good. That's the yard. I had taken everything out because I was doing some ballast work and scenery. So I just put a couple pieces back in. I kind of wish I had put a train in the back now, but that's the engine shed. This is going north. So there's the waste rock, company houses, the mine above the hill. There's the mine. None of my stuff's done. I haven't put roofs on anything. I haven't fully finished my buildings that I do have built because I do intend to add lighting at some point. So I'm trying to make it easy so I can go back and do that. So a lot of my stuff still needs to be finished. There's the slag. There's one of my slag trains, and that's the slag dump. Now, once the slag train's empty, it's low priority. So it might take a while to go back. Good thing we have extra slag pots. And then there's the town. The town of Superior proper. My whole railroad, the entire railroad's actually like 35 miles long from interchange to mine at it. I don't have that kind of space. Most of us don't. So basically, when we'll get to that in a little bit, but basically I modeled Superior, the town where the mine is, the smelter is, the industries are just outside. So everything is, yeah, there you go. Got an abandoned cattle chutes. In the 40s. They hauled cattle for about 10 years, or livestock. I don't know exactly what kind, but some kind of livestock. That's the mine, the one where the ore train is. That's the lead up to the mine. And then I threw in a team track just for extra stuff. In this case, I get on a cook with PFE reefers, and so seasonally they ship out fruits and vegetables, from local farms and stuff. Anything can come in there. Dog food from the Washington Northern, skunk beer from the Tenino Western, from Scatter Creek. So just, it's all model railroading. It's all about fun, right? And then, yeah, so the mine's on a switchback, as you saw on the diagram. Yeah, you can go through this. It's just, showing some scenery. There's the Silflow perlite mill. I don't really like this building. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. There's the Harbor Light. I like this one. Basically, they get covered hoppers for shipping out perlite. Perlite being a volcanic material, they dry it and it kind of pops like a popcorn. If anybody's gardeners and you do with Miracle Grow, those little white things that are that's perlite. And then there's my canyon. I would have liked to have done more canyon run, but again, space. So, but I did catch a little bit of the going through the canyons. There's the gravel pit. That's the Queen Creek right there next to it. The trestle, that's the ore dumper. The hoppers is the limestone dump. The track behind the hopper would be the scrap copper inbound. Got the rollers. There's the slag, the yard, little Plymouth. I love those little Plymouths. That thing, so far, I'm able to pull 6 cars on flat level ground with that little Plymouth. That thing's pretty cool. And I got sound and flashy light on it too. It's cool. That's the acid loading track, finished product track. The main line is the one in the first. This one right, if you this track you barely see, that was my little nod to the narrow gauge version. I wanted to put it in there, so I found a piece of flex track at a train show. They made me buy all four, but I only needed a one, so I just left it buried. So here we go. So the swing gate, I had to do a swing gate. That's what 3 foot swing gate represents 17 and a half miles of track between the interchange and Superior. uh, I have switches tied to it, and later in the pictures we'll see it tied to semaphores. There were no signals on the Magma. The Magma ran a train like in the slow days, like through once every 3 days or something. Uh, so there were no signaling. I did, but I like semaphores, so I did put a semaphore on the main line to the right, and on the other side over in the staging depot area, so to indicate when the bridge is open and closed. And they do work; they're lit and everything. Kind of neat. Uh, they're powered off a tortoise. They're a little faster than I'd like, but it is what it is. But it was kind of a neat feature. There's my tourist train. Uh, Now, I kind of had some fun with the tourist train. Magma did have two passenger cars. They were painted silver with green uh, that they used as they were combination cars. Um, they were actually used for passenger and caboose way back in, from the 1925 to 1930 or 40. Uh, and Well, I wanted to include them somehow, and I didn't paint them silver, obviously. But what I did do is each car is numbered based on a prototype of something in the history of the Magma Arizona. Uh, and I didn't really get close-ups of each one, and I didn't bring my notes with me. But like the 204 is, and then I named it the Silver King because originally, before the railroad, before everything, one of the mines was the Silver King mine. I think the 203 is the Silver Queen. That was another mine. Um, one of the open air cars I numbered 63 and named it Alder. That was for William Boyce Thompson, the owner of the railroad. And that was his private car. He had a private Pullman. When they standard gauge, he bought a brand new Pullman heavyweight for him, and there was actually a siding where his car parked, and he can connect with the rest of the line. It was kind of neat. And then I don't remember off the top of my head. The one is named Sullivan. I think the 203 is actually named Sullivan. That's it. The 203 is actually named Sullivan, and the other one is the Silver Queen. Sullivan is actually the guy credited for finding silver. He was a soldier, and he was marching through or hiking or whatever through the canyon, and he got tired and sat down and picked up some rocks to play with, and they were really heavy and they're black, and and it turned out they were silver. And he didn't get any credit, but he kind of went back, tried to make some money, so he went back to like San Francisco when he got out of the army, tried to make some money so he can come back and file a claim and find his source of the silver. And by the time, of course, he got back, everybody already found it, and the mines were popping, and nobody doubted his story, and he didn't have any rights to anything. But they gave him a job for that, so I named the car for him. I thought that was kind of a neat thing. Here's the explanation. So left to right, the two tracks of the Copper Basin interchange. Basically, we ship the hydrochloric acid to Copper Basin and the waste rock to Copper Basin. They go and dump it someplace, and occasionally they get a reefer because they have farms on their line too. And that's really the only thing that the Copper Basin has connection with my railroad. Like I said, I just wanted to include them. The fourth track is actually the Southern Pacific Main Line, and then the next two tracks are the Magma Main Line and the runaround track. So that's pretty much it for that. There's the staging yard, or now the classification yards. So yeah, the backtrack. So anything coming from Superior will get put out on track 5, and then the Southern Pacific uh, basically takes it and then brings in the next train, and then it goes on to that track number 3 or track number 1 over at the Copper Basin interchange. Uh, but yeah, this is where all the cars are stored and shuffled around when they're not in Superior. Uh, just some pictures of my scenery, my rock work. I use I use plywood as a base, 3/4 plywood I built and ripped to build the whole bench work, plywood and homosote for the track, and then everything else, all the voids and everything is all done with extruded foam, um, expanding foam in a can, lightweight spackle to fill gaps and give some texture, and then Bragdon Enterprises resins for the rock molds and rock castings. I think the next one's just some more rock work. And I got a lot of work to do. I've not I've been kind of working on the club stuff for the last few months. I've really not been doing much here. Uh you can see the little abandoned mine up there. This is the nod to the Nevada Northern. If anybody's been there and you go towards the Ruth, if you look down in the creek, there's old mine carts used as erosion control. So I really like that. So I threw that into mine. Uh, and these are the kind of things I like to do. The water tower, that's the prototype at Magma Junction, and so that's my model. Not complicated. It's not done. Uh, I'm a close enough modeler. I don't try to. I'm not a rivet counter. I don't expect every ridge, everything, I capture the flavor. That's what I'm after, and that's what I like, and I'm happy doing it. Uh, Home built tank car I'm working on. This actually started with my ON30 version. I thought that would be kind of a cool feature, but since I bought them and have them, I'm going to go ahead and do one in HO scale. Actually, I got 2 of them in the works in HO scale. They won't be part of operations; they'll be put someplace. Cattle guard. So they did go through a couple ranches. All the barrels lined with plates and mine cart wheels. I did the same thing. Although it would have been nice to do mine flange up the way the real ones are, so you can see it better. There was unfortunately no detail on the flange side, so I did flange side down, so you could at least see the detail of the wheel. Uh, the engine shed. I'm working on making the smoke jack caps, so I don't have those done. But if you notice the little tear, I did the little tear in there. Uh, uh, and this was just a Walther's lumber mill shed or something. And I go, hey, that's close enough. I don't have to scratch build it. I can just buy that, and then I have all this corrugated plastic from some of my mine kits from Kit Bash and everything, and I just filled it in and called it good. It works. I got to paint it and everything, but that's the kind of stuff I like. Is that little detail that I think it's neat. Uh, Now this was cool. I decided there's a lot of mines in mining country. You go to Colorado, you go, to Arizona, you go to Nevada. There's a lot of these old little mines that are abandoned and such. And so I decided I wanted to put one in there. And then they got addictive, and I now have 4 of them, and one's still in operation. It's a little soul guy in his old truck with his camper. He lives there and he mines it by himself. But this one obviously is collapsed. But yeah, this was kind of a fun little project I did. Uh, there's a couple, there's another one of my mines. This one, a friend of mine passed away last year. He's always been, you guys might even know him, Robert Dickfoss. He's from Alaska, and he comes down once every other year for Monroe. Well, he's always communicating with me. He was he was like online friends with my mom through me, and I was like posting stuff, and I hadn't heard from him in a week, and another week went by, and then I found out he passed away. Uh, and I was like, damn, I just talked to him. Uh, so I named this particular mine. This is the one that's still in operation. If you, I didn't get a close up, but the sign I actually named it for him, so it's the Dick Foss mine. Um, there's one of the semaphores. I actually have grades. My railroad's pretty much all grades. So anywhere that you have to do switching, I actually have a tortoise controlling a little brass wire that comes up for a brake to hold. So I got three of those. And then the lower right corner you can see is the scale with the scale readout, and there's a switch next to it to turn it on. So you can turn it on and off as you need it, so it's just not always on. Uh, didn't get a close up of it, but it's a neat little feature. You actually you see the cars jog over on the scale tracks, and that's it.
Well, thank you, Mike. That was a great tour.
Thank you.
Seeing what you're working on, right now, and it's always great to see a layout in progress, to see what people are doing and how they're doing it. So I'll start with a question to open questions for the floor. Now, how long have you been working on this layout? And
Uh, November 2020, I think, is when I tore down the ON30 version and started doing the HO version. I kept the bench work. I rearranged the peninsula, and I put new joists in. So yeah, I would say, yeah, November 2020, I started working on it.
I liked your two separate yards. I think your yard on the other side of the wall is a good opportunity for somebody to do some switching while you're doing trains in the copper side. It's at least a two-person operation, maybe four.
I I've ran up to five with sometimes with six. It gets a little crowded over five. Four is about the right number.
Yeah.
If I have a fifth person, then I can have a dedicated Southern Pacific crew. But yeah, it does. It's a small. I got three pat runaround tracks. Yeah, it can get hectic with too many people. I planned it for 3 to 4 people, but yeah, it's. I've had four op sessions. I've had two test sessions, and I think 4 official op sessions, and yeah, they've all gone pretty well. Little glitches here and there, but not too bad.
For your grade operation, you don't have it? I didn't notice any reversing opportunities for the locomotive. How do you switch the locomotive from one end of the train to the other, or do you?
There's a runaround track in the town in where the yard is. Where the scale track is, there's a runaround track.
Okay.
Okay. And where the smelter is, there's a runaround track, and out
Okay,
in the interchange area, there's a runaround track. So that's how I do it. However, there is some push pull. The slag train is a push pull operation. They don't run around. They pull the train to the slag, and then they shove back to the smelter. The ore train will pull up the switchback and then shove to the mine, and then pull down and then shove to the scale track. And in the process of weighing, the cars will run around and pull, and then has to run around again at the smelter off the main and then shove back into the ore dumper. So there's a little bit of work to be done, but so it's not. Some trains are just back and forth. I mean, the tourist train, the slag train, the rock train, the waste rock train is, there's a little bit of switching. The ore train, there's a little bit of switching. The busiest jobs are obviously going to be the classification and making up and breaking down the trains, and then the local that actually goes and picks up and sets out at all the various industries. So,
Mike, what's the elevation of the Southern Pacific yard above the floor?
minimum is 50 inches. So that's my base. My base is 50 inches, or roughly between my chest and shoulder. And I think the highest point it would be the mine, I think is about 62 inches roughly. I never really measured it, and I tried to do a pretty steep grade. Prototypically, this grade's 4%. So I tried to get it pretty steep, and I didn't actually measure the grade, but it's somewhere to the 3 to 4% area.
Your turnouts, I didn't notice any switch machine. Are they just Pico swing hand thrown?
No, well, they are hand thrown. Yes, I use blue points like I use manual blue points, and then on the fascias, which I guess I should have taken a picture of that. Are push pull rods on the fascia.
Okay.
3 turnouts. 3
The
turnouts
Blue
are
Point-
electric.
the Blue
The
Point's
ones that are
pretty
above
effective, actually.
do what?
The Blue Point is pretty effective for manual turnouts.
Oh, I like them. They're great and they're simple, and I can power the frogs. And like I said, there's 3 turnouts that are electric with tortoises, and those are all the ones that are like on the mines on the mine run, simply because you don't need the rods going through interfering with the lower track, and I didn't feel like doing linkages and stuff. So I got 3 that are electric, but all the rest are all manual. Yeah, I probably should have taken a picture of that, and I didn't even think of that until just now. So since you mentioned it,
You explained it fine. The other thing I noticed, do you run a caboose with your
yes,
port? You do, so
yep,
he has to get the caboose gets in the
yep.
way sometimes.
The only trains that don't need a caboose are the slag train, the tourist train. Uh, I have 3 cabooses. Prototype only had 1, number 101. Uh, but I like cabooses. I think trains should have cabooses. So I got 1 international wide vision caboose, which is used specifically for running from Superior to the interchange, and then I have 2 of the C&O design cabooses, which are used for switching to local industries or the mine train.
But the cabooses don't do the mine run.
Yep, they do the mine run.
You do?
So you got to put it out of the way. You don't have to do them on the mine run, but I decided to. I mean, the biggest problem with my railroad is realistically it's so simple. So I wanted to add some work to it. Otherwise, it'd be okay. I'm done. So if there's a caboose on it, you got to get it out of the way. You got to leave it. You got to run it around. I kind of did that intentionally. I kind of planned it that way intentionally, just to have some play value. If you didn't have the caboose, well, now, okay, so basically 2 ore trains. One's a 4-car and one's a 5-car. If you have the 5-car, you got to dump the caboose leave it on the siding in the main yard, on the main line, not on the main, but on the siding, and then you got to shove your cars into the ore dumper. If you got the 4 train, you can go through the ore dumper with the caboose. So depending on which one you're running, and you're going to alternate them, one time you're going to do 4, one time you're going to do 5. So it changes it up. You always have to run around at both ends. So it just adds the play value.
I loved your nod there to the Central Pacific of 10 inches of track laid in
Oh,
one day. So that's their sign that's just
yeah.
west of Promontory.
Well,
Oh.
you guys know Chip Van Gilder. Oh, no, you don't know Chip? Okay, well, Chip kind of started the 3D printing out here. He didn't invent 3D printing, but when it started flourishing, he's kind of the leader of it in our area. So whenever I have some weird thing I want done, I go, hey, I sent him the real sign, and I gave him a dimension of what I wanted. I said, hey, can you make this for me? And ironically, the date is actually a year after when he made the sign, and I did the date, but then we had a house fire in 2020, so there wasn't a whole lot of stuff done. And then by the time the house was done and the garage was cleared out and stuff put back in the house, so I didn't. So it was about a year later. So the sign is actually a year off, but it was a year off to the day. That's what's funny, and I didn't plan that; it just happened that way. But yeah, so I just thought that would be kind of a cute little, I mean, like I said, this is supposed to be fun. There's if you're not having fun, what's the point? So yeah, Chip did that for me. He also did my Superior sign. I gave him a picture of the depot in Superior off the Y where the scale track is actually at, and I told him the space I had, and he actually 3D printed me, and I just sent him the picture out of my book and said, "Hey, print this. This is the space I have," and it's spot on. So that's over my doorway. So yeah, I didn't include that because I was trying to keep the pictures down to a minimum, not overcrowd this, but I probably should have included that one.
Those are all the little, nuances that are kind of a kick in the pants in doing this hobby.
Yeah,
things like
it
that.
gives it its personality,
Right.
So sometimes it's more fun. Like I said, I went to do one of those little abandoned mines, and I ended up doing 4 of them, and it got addictive, and it was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, there's a spot for one. Oh, here's a spot for, and then I had to buy a Z scale track for the 18-inch, and and then I had to remove the ties and make it look good and make it look abandoned. And oh, well, this guy, well, let's make one active. And so I parked a little camper guy there and made the little sign and, and oh, let's make this one collapsed and, trying to break scale timbers to look like they actually broke. Not difficult, but it was like, is this going to work? And it seemed to work okay. So, and actually, I don't know if you saw the pictures closely, but if you actually look at them closely, I actually have like code 40 rail above the timbers, like the prototype mines use to help fill the gaps so the rocks don't come between the timbers. I actually put those in, and all the mines have them, but you got to really look to see it. Those are the things I like. I may never get master model railroader because a lot of the stuff I like isn't. I don't really want to build a stock car. I really don't. I don't want to scratch build a locomotive. I don't, if I were to scratch build a locomotive, it would have to be the Magma Arizona narrow gauge 242s, in ON30 or ON3, actually, would be the way I'd want to do it. But I don't really want to scratch build a locomotive. I like little things, I'm okay with out of the box, shake the box. I'm okay with, little small details. I mean, I scratch build a little thing like the tanks on my little tar. I made those tanks, but the trucks, they're just the old KD logging disconnects. Why would I want to scratch build it? It's right there, $20.
So I would venture to guess if there's one thing that we model railroaders are intimately familiar with, and that's rabbit holes. We can endlessly. I do this. I go down one rabbit hole after another.
Yeah.
And enjoy it.
Well, I periodically I'd search the net for Magma Arizona and see if there's anything new pop up. I have never found video of their steam engines in operation. Not once. I've been studying this for 40 years. Not once have I ever seen video. I got pictures of their steam engines. I got pictures of their narrow gauge. Nothing in video. You guys all know Tyler Wickham, and you guys might know Bill Sandstrom. Okay, well, Bill Sandstrom and Tyler worked together on the UP years ago. Bill actually trained Tyler, and then I met Tyler through Bill, or I met Bill through Tyler. And one day, Bill sends me a link, and it's Magma steam engines, 2 of them, and it's like, where the hell have these been? I searched regularly for this stuff. I never find it, and then 4 or 5 months later, Tyler sends me a link for a video disc, has the steam engines. And it actually has when they brought in their first diesel and their second diesel. I looked, I hate spending $30 for a damn DVD, but I found because of them, I found the 2 DVDs that had footage I've never seen before. All of, video of I got video, the video includes their mines, their mine trains and everything too, some of it. So much cool stuff. So yeah, so now I ended up spending $60 for 2 DVDs, but to me it's worth it for that, so yeah, I actually have video of them bringing in their first diesel and their second diesel. I got video of their steam engine, a couple of their steam engines running. I mean, it's cool. I love this railroad. It is just so simple, but it's so neat. One thing that always kept me from modeling it when I was younger is because it's so simple, I wanted to model it literally tie for tie. I wanted it exact. I wanted it perfect because that was the only way it was going to work. But I'm also not a scratch builder, and I really don't have the patience, and I hate painting. I don't mind doing some painting. I just, really fine detail. I'm just not good at it. I don't like it. It's, I don't like painting real stuff, let alone models. I do some painting, of course. So I always kind of shied away from it and just kind of included, well, I'm going to model this. Oh, but by the way, I'm going to do a superior mine. Or I'm going to have magma over here, So I've always included it in everything I did. And I built an N scale version. I built an ON30 version, and I built an HO version 25 years ago, but none of them really came out the way I was hoping they'd come out. They just didn't. Something was missing. Something wasn't right. The O scale was nice, except my jumping from N scale to O scale, that was a disaster. I didn't take consideration of the different scale and the roads were 8 inches in O scale. And I thought I broke 2 of my rules and it screwed everything up. And there's a reason for the rules. And that's how come the O scale didn't last. And I ended up scrapping it. If I would have built the O scale the way I built the HO version, I would still be doing the ON30 version of it. But yeah, it was like, but I'm happy with it. I got a Trackmobile with sound and lighting and flashy lights. I got the Plymouth with sound and lighting. I got the 45 tonner with sound and lighting. I got the 70 tonner with sound and lighting. I got the, I found me an 060. Magma never had an 060, but I found me an 060 and I'm converting it to an oil burner. Another one of those projects that gets started and never gets finished, but it has sound and lighting and firebox flicker. My main locomotives are the Alcos, two RS3s, no, one RS3 and an RSD4 or an RSD5. But I also have a couple SW9s, I believe they are. I think they're SW9s. They got them cheap. They're Walthers. This is what the model railroad companies need to do. Painted unlettered. And then I don't mind decaling. I don't mind decaling at all. I just hate painting. But so I bought them because they were painted unlettered and they looked like a nice utility locomotive set. So I got them. The sound isn't the best. What do you expect for $135 nowadays? But they work, and I decaled them for Magma. Those were the blue and yellow switchers. They never had any EMDs on the Magma. San Manuel did have EMDs, and actually some of them were even just big letters that Magma on the side. But yeah, whatever. I like EMDs, but I like Baldwins. I like all the oddball stuff too. There's such characteristics. So Magma did have RS3s at one point in time in the 90s when the Baldwins all crapped out, and they got RS3s from the San Manuel. So at least that is somewhat prototypical, although they never had an RSD 4 or 5.
I'd like to just say thank you for a good presentation. It was fun.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. If anybody's interested and on Facebook, you can find it it's Harvey Gulch Copper Company on Facebook. I don't only post about my railroad. I'll post if I do go to an op session at somebody else's house. Sometimes I'm a member of the PSMRE, so when we do train fest stuff, I'll sometimes post pictures in there or prototype photos or something really unusual I come across. I'll post in there, so it's not 100% Harvey Gulch stuff, but that's my little railroad page if anybody is ever interested. I only got 76 members.
Well, thanks, Mike.
Thank you guys.
Organize this.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. This is a great presentation. And as I said, love to see layouts in progress.
Yeah, well,
inspirational, I think, to folks,
the one thing that always gets everybody's motivation going, plan an op session, plan a tour. Oh, I got to get this stuff done.
That's very true.
I hadn't touched the railroad. I mean, I worked on my barrels and such. I've been sitting here working on the barrels for a while, and I worked on my little engine shack. But mainly I've been working on, I'm also a member of the PSMRE. I don't really have to do anything for them. But I'm also a member of the 4th Division Fremo Club, Modular Club. So I've been working on frames and building my modules for that. And then, of course, with weather and everything, so my garage is kind of packed because all the modules are lying in there and all my other stuff that's in the garage. So I've been kind of tripping over stuff. So I get a little, and of course, as we all know, as we get older, our legs hurt, our hips hurt, feet hurt, thighs hurt, head hurts, hands hurt. So if I get home and I don't go directly to the garage and I sit down, I'm done for the night. So I get home, I hang out with the wife for a little bit, I sit down. Okay, well, now I'm not going out to the railroad. So, unfortunately, I haven't been making the progress I once would have. I mean, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, I would have been a lot further along, but it's okay. It's not a race either.
I got one question. How long are your op sessions?
They last roughly about 4 hours. Yeah, 3 to 4 hours. It depends on how many people show up and how people feel.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining and thank Mike for his presentation. And next month, we plan to have a fellow named Jamie Paul for the layout tour. He's building a model of NP from Stampede down to Auburn. So should be interesting.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you all for joining. And with that, I think we'll sign off, Burr. So
Thanks, Burr. Thanks, Lee.
you bet.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.